Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the All Sports Podcast with me, Matt, and today, Joel. How are you, mate?
Hello, Matt. All good, thanks, mate.
And James, how are you?
Not bad, mate, thank you.
Last and least in quiz positions, Femi, how are you?
I'm great.
You gone over that? I'm not over that. The fact that you grossly underscored yourself.
Sometimes you gotta be humble, I guess.
That is the ultimate act of being humble, to be fair.
Exactly. I didn't want to show you man up though, but it was a bit of fun. Fun. The winner were clearly got cheated.
Okay, well, it's a nice spin. The humility card is a nice spin on what actually transpired. Right, not long to go till Christmas. A couple of guys that are going to be spending a little bit more time with their family than expected this Christmas. Gary O'Neill and Russell Martin. Where should we start? Wolves? That's a positive spin on managerial sacking. Should we start at Wolves? Anyone got a take?
I heard match of the day are hiring. Guys, are good.
They're going to need to be because Theo Walcott was it Theo Walcott? Theo Walcott was struggling.
Gabby Logan. Who's the other one? The other lady. There's a couple. Gabby Logan's in the running for presenting it, which I think wouldn't be that bad. She's got quite a lot of historic positions in sport.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that.
Right,
Wolves. Go on then.
The mighty Wolves. Honestly, where do we start with all the chaos around the club? Fighting their own teammates, to fighting the other club's managers and the other club's coaches, to, scrapping the refs. Like, mate, they're doing all their fighting off the pitch when they should be doing it on the pitch. So much chaos within the teams. Honestly, I think it's the right time to, get a new manager in. I think Gary O'Neill was pretty much on, it was pretty close to the sack after the last game anyway. I know the board of directors come out with a statement saying they were going to back him, but I mean, you're losing to Ipswich.
That's the speech of chaos, isn't it? When you get the backing of the directors, specifically at Chelsea, it usually is.
That's the seal. That's all you need. Once you get the backing, just start packing your bags because you know it's coming. Honestly, you know it's coming, and and it did. Good manager, but I think just probably wasn't a great fit for him. And now they've got a new manager coming in, so that should be exciting. I still think Wolves have enough to stay in the Premier League, but it should be interesting.
Well, statistically, 65% of clubs that sack their managers pre-Christmas avoid relegation.
There you go.
So yeah, they do. They do have a good chance of staying in the league.
How many of them have been hired by Sam Allardyce?
He's probably been in a fair amount of conversations, to be honest. Not hired by, but influential character in relegation battle.
I actually think the Wolves' problem is bigger than the manager or the players falling out. I think they have sort of gutted that team over the last 2 or 3 years and not really invested properly. And they're going to do it again with Cunha. Like, he is far too good for the team, and they'll sell him off and they'll try and replace him cheap. I think last year's example, it doesn't seem like a big thing, but Kilman going from the heart of their defence has made them look so shaky. And whereas before, you always expected tight games with Wolves. They're just shipping goals for fun. So I don't know what a manager can do with essentially a championship squad in the Premier League.
Is this does it go back to Esposito Santo? Because obviously they sacked him. They were top half, weren't they? 7th a couple of years in a row, and then they finished 13th and they got rid of him at the end of the season. I felt like that was kind of hasty. He also subsequently got sacked at Spurs after just a year there, and now he's crushing it at Forest. So I think he's got talent. I think that to the point where Wolves were actually looking at bringing him back after Lopetegui turned them down a couple of years ago as well. So even after he'd left for a year, they were looking at bringing him back as well.
I think they're...
It was funny hearing someone say the manager's got talent. I mean, especially when he's like, 50 plus? I mean,
yeah,
you're past that age where we call him talent.
There's a lot of skill that goes into being a manager. It's not just being a people leader, it's being a tactician, being a good coach, identifying players. It's such a hard thing to do in football. But I just think with Wolves' case, you think about the players that they've sold off. Jota, Neves. These are 2 unbelievable Premier League players that aren't there, who were there when they were overachieving. And you think, you become an established Premier League team, that's so hard to do. Just invest a little bit, aim for that mid-table. and they've failed to do so the last few years. And now they look like they could start all over again, end up in the Championship, and having to repeat the process. Whereas
Have
this
they
time
got a
they
little?
won't have the money, like the historical. They just went and signed Brazilian, Portuguese players to Mendes, and that fired them into the Prem initially. Like, will they be able to do that again?
Are they a little bit like delusions of grandeur that they've won the top? They've won the top league in the past, granted 70 years ago, but they just think that they are bigger than they are or will ever be.
I think there's a little bit of that in every fan base,
Because
probably.
Forest well known for that.
Yeah. Forest are like that. Villa are like that. Everton are like that. Those clubs who have had success in the past, like Wolves, are definitely in that bracket.
Chuck United in there too.
But I think it all comes back to James's point that it's bigger than the manager. There's a lot of I think if we had a clued up Wolves fan on the panel, they'd be telling us now about all the problems that they've got with the ownership. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I think investment has been not what it needs to be for a while. Obviously the connections with
Mendes,
Mendes, that comes with. It's a marriage of convenience for both, and sometimes you're going to have to take some of the ones that you don't want to repay, getting those ones that you did. And I feel like probably over the last few years, since probably Cunha, and he was a slow burner for them because they had Neto, they had Jota, they had Neves as well. So and a few others who were like really good players for them, but maybe they didn't make the money on.
Jimenez.
Yeah.
I mean, the next one will be João Gomez. He won't be there much longer. Like, these are players that are too good to be langing around in the top in the Premier League. But yeah, I mean, you just named 4 or 5 players there that all went for 30, 40, 50 million, which is enough to reinvest in 2 or 3 seasons worth of.
And that's it. I think I don't really think they've been doing that.
No, absolutely. So no, not really surprised about O'Neill. I think he knew what he walked into, though. Like, he didn't go, "Oh, this club's like full of money, and I'm going to get all this to work with." I think he knew when he took the job this was part of the deal. And all due respect to Gary O'Neill, if they had the money, he probably wouldn't have got the job in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, did all right. Showed he can get his teams playing football towards the back end of last year, but this year, the start, I feel like it would have taken a lot to come back from that.
We said it at the start, though, didn't we? They were playing good football. They didn't deserve the results that they were getting, but then the situation kind of caught up to them, and then the football stopped being played and the infighting started.
Yeah. I mean, replacing your captain, having your best player like striking out opposition staff and all this, it's just so public as well that clearly the club is in the right place. There was nowhere for them to hide. So,
who had him in their FPL team?
I have Cunha, but so I can't imagine he'll be playing next week.
Someone had the defender that is now.
That was me
that
as
was
well.
you.
Yeah.
Why have you got 2 Wolves players?
Well, Cunha because he couldn't, and I know because I thought he just loves an assist.
Don't question it, Joel, when he's top of our league
I
and
can't
a good
understand
100
it.
odd points
His
ahead of
team's
us.
terrible every year, and then he keeps winning it.
Do you pay for points? Is that a thing? Can I pay for points?
He must be doing that.
No, I'm not following a tipster with picks like that.
Cunha swiping those glasses is moment of the season. So
Do you
far.
reckon he'll get
It was moment of the season until the Southampton fans sang for Russell Martin to give them a wave, and then when he did, they booed him.
Right, go on then. On to nice segue to Russell Martin. I mean, he's had it coming. Southampton have got a worse start than Derby in 2007, 2008, who had 7 points by the 23rd of December. So,
you know what they finished on?
11.
That's what Derby is sort of famous for in our generation of watching football.
Smirk on your face for Derby doing poorly in the Premier League.
Well, I mean, I wasn't really watching Derby at that point, but everyone always speaks about, like, when a team comes up, they're like, well, they'll never beat Derby's points total, and it's like, oh, maybe this year will be the one people stop talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Southampton on 5 points so far. Absolutely horrendous. And I don't think they've played any decent football either. I'm just surprised that he wasn't the first manager to go.
I think he probably is. I don't know. There's when you look at their hierarchy, the guy. I think he's like the main owner, or at least a part owner. He was heavily involved at Brentford for a long time, so they'll have ideas about how they want the team to play, and Russell Martin probably fits that bill. So he was probably in a good place in order to try and play that type of football. But you have to bring an element of pragmatism, otherwise this is what happens.
Yeah, I think that makes it now 3 out of the 4 playoff winning managers from last year have all been sacked now, apart from there's one left at Bromley.
3 out of the 4.
Playoff winning
Playoff.
managers.
Yeah.
So 3 out of 4 teams who got promoted via the playoffs last season, their managers have gone. What?
Wow.
Well, maybe I'm sounding surprised, and maybe I shouldn't be. Those teams are like ill-equipped to cope at a high level, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. But I think Southampton, I mean, if you want to generalise them too, they're 2 English coaches that are now out of job. So we now have only, I think there's 2 English coaches left in the Premier League, which must be the lowest of all time as like a ratio against the 20. And it could go even lower. Say that again?
Who are they? How?
Deitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His voice is, if possible, his voice is getting even deeper and scratchier the older he gets. I heard him in the post-match. Yeah, barely understood a word he said. And then obviously Irish, you've got McKenna, who's doing a phenomenal job.
I refuse to bash Sean Dyche on the basis he's a Chesterfield legend. No,
Nobody knows that.
nothing.
Cool.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Part that.
I mean, yeah, last night was a shambles for Southampton, wasn't it? It's impossible to keep your job after that. I
Was
think
it
it's just
4-0 down at half time or 5-0
they
down?
were 5-0 down at half time. 4-0 down when he left the dugout to go, like, performatively left the dugout to show how angry he was at the performance and how he was going to really get into the players at half time. Can you imagine being the person who had to walk in and say, actually, I'll stop you there, boss. It's actually 5-0.
I don't think you would need to. I think you probably hear it, but yeah, I
I
appreciate
know,
it.
but that didn't fit with my joke.
No, it's been coming for a while. I mean, we've said it for the last few weeks. The way he's playing isn't going to ever keep him in a job at Southampton.
Surprised they didn't sack him at halftime.
Who do those teams bring in? Like, what happens?
Say that again?
I said, who do those teams?
Wolves have already got their man, haven't they?
Yeah, Wolves have got the man.
Who they hired?
Some Portuguese fella, obviously.
Shocker.
I think he's coming from Saudi.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yes. Yeah. I think you're right.
Victor Pereira.
Yeah, that's it, Pereira. Thought I had something decent to say.
I think Southampton will probably struggle to replace their manager. And whoever they do replace him with would have to come in with the expectation that the season's pretty much a write-off. Because you haven't got the players to compete. And if you're being honest with yourself, it's like you almost have starting to use the season almost like a pre-season for the next season, championship. Which is a bit sad to say, but that's the reality of where they're at in terms of the players. I don't think there's one player in there who would get into the other teams, any of the other 19. Not one player I could think of.
Everything you've said is absolutely bang on the money, but all it takes is a couple of wins.
Is it 7 points?
It's the Premier League.
Well, what they'll be looking for with bringing someone new in is obviously they may want a change of style, probably not. What they want is a new manager bounce. But how many points is that worth? I know how many points it's worth.
Oh, do you?
In the first 5 games after a new manager is hired, there is on average a 1.1 per game for the first 5 games. So 5.5 points for the first 5 games in total. Additional. Not a bad little bounce.
So Southampton have got Liverpool in the League Cup. In the League Cup.
Okay. Yeah.
So in the league, they've got Fulham, West Ham, Palace, Brentford, and then Man United. They're the next 5.
Okay.
They'll beat United.
Yeah, that's 3.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at
How
this.
mature?
Yeah, sorry.
He's purely speaking as a neutral.
As a neutral. They've got a couple of half-decent players, like Harwood Bellis, obviously plays for England now. Flynn Downs came from West Ham, didn't he? That Dibbling, people are talking about going elsewhere. So if they can get a coach in with a system that fits some of these players.
Oh, did you see, what's his face? Do you know what? I'm glad he's been sacked now. His comment on...
that's not kind.
No, I mean, obviously...
If you don't have anything nice to say... Well, if that was true, we wouldn't have a podcast.
He made
go on.
A cheeky comment on Diblin talking about how United bid 21 million and that would only cost him his left foot. I just hope they get relegated now. And now
who said that? Russell Martin.
Russell Martin. A cheek
Shots
on the
fired.
man. Honestly, like you're literally fighting to stay in the Premier League. You're literally fighting to stay in your job, and you'll think about Man United. The nerve! I can't believe it, man. But now, obviously, when Southampton do get relegated, probably pay half of that, and actually get him.
Things out of contract soon as well, so I don't think it'll even be that much.
I mean, there's absolutely zero context for this, but I called out Tyler Dibbling as one to watch 2 years ago.
Did you? How old was he then?
He was, I don't know how old he was. I think he was 16. because
Doing well on Football Manager, was he?
he played against Villa in an under-18s game, scored twice.
Sorry, you were watching under-18 football for Aston Villa?
It was COVID, mate. All right, there was a lot to do.
He's quality.
Yeah, he went to Chelsea and then went back to Southampton. So he came through at Southampton, left, and then went back. So that's a relatively interesting fact about him, I think.
Yeah, so you've got a future career in scouting. That's what we're saying.
Don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a lot of money in it, to be honest. Probably definitely wouldn't be with my picks.
Spend your time watching under-18 football, though, which just seems to be what you enjoy.
So we've got a couple more managers on the list then. So Lopetegui is putting his hand up.
Is this the Saints list?
No, it's to go.
Oh,
It's
to
to
go.
go.
Number one on that list, the one and only
No,
Pep Guardiola.
he's number 2.
He's number 2.
Officially,
actually?
betting odds, he's number 2 to go.
No way.
Joking.
No, he is, yeah.
It's the stupidest money. If anyone's putting that
Oh
down,
my god, yeah, I'd be
Why is
laying
he-
that all day.
He is, yeah. I mean, has he become as much an institution as Arsene Wenger did and Alex Ferguson did?
maybe
He's-
not Fergie, but probably Wenger.
He's unsackable, in my opinion.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
The
be his
only
choice.
way he gets sacked is if City end up in the bottom half.
Even then,
Yeah.
he's won 4 in a row.
They
like,
need,
give him a
yeah,
year.
they need to not get through this Champions League qualification. They need to go out third round of the FA Cup and continue this rich vein of form in the Premier League.
Even then, I think there's enough factors, like with no Rodri and the other kind of. I think they've had other injuries to the back line and stuff, haven't they? And like the general flux of the team. Like, I think there would be enough there. I do think his demeanour could be a factor. He does seem to be, I don't know, not quite with us sometimes.
He's certainly dressing like he doesn't care.
When he took
That's
his jacket
fair.
off after
Well,
the
that's
United game,
fair.
mate, he had a gown on. Like, brother, that shirt, he couldn't. Like, either get your size or if that's the style, no, bro, absolutely not. That ain't it. Mm-mm. Not even
His
close.
yeah, I feel like his gear the last couple of seasons has been pretty atrocious. Like, he just used to be standard, like, lovely merino jumper, good fitting
Smart
trousers.
trousers, yeah.
And just do that every week. And then
Yeah.
and then the hoodies started.
The
and that big
hoodies.
weird cardigan that he's got.
That's what it.
Brands got hold of him and said, "We're going to dress you. Here's all
What, Giacomo? Goodness me.
And City generally, because
their stuff."
their
Like,
Champions League gear has been.
yeah,
They've had some horrors, haven't they?
there's always some.
Do you know who's got good stash? Arsenal. I know that's
Okay.
biased, but I really do like.
We weren't talking about kit or manager appearance.
I mean, Arteta too he's very slick.
Yeah,
It's
I was
just
gonna
middle of the
say,
road, isn't it?
Arteta is.
No, he's the merino wool and
He's the what?
trousers. Yeah. Little
Yeah, but he's
polar
also
neck.
Arteta, and he's snaky, and I don't want to see him in anything.
Snaky.
Villa's Champions League stuff this year is disgusting.
Yeah, just to slip in, Villa are still in the Champions League.
Yeah,
Top
just
of the
let you know.
table in the Champions League.
Third, we're third. Well, no, I think we're fifth
Yeah.
actually after results. But anyway,
Top bracket.
yeah, the hoodies that they've given them. Good God, they're terrible.
Someone must be buying.
I genuinely think they're contributing to our form.
What the terrible Champions League hoodies?
That's a new one. The hoodies. The last person I heard blame a weird thing on football was Klopp, the wind.
Wind.
He said,
Okay.
No,
Yeah, I
Joe
thought you were gonna go back to Man United's grey.
Oh, yes, swapping the.
Yeah, the grey shirts. Yeah,
the grey shirts.
it's too foggy to wear grey.
I still think win is a lot worse than that one. Because grey, with grey you never know, man.
What was that? Did they have the blue one on and they put the grey one on? Or did
No,
they have
they
the
had the
one on?
grey. Yeah, they had the grey,
Yeah.
and they couldn't see each other, so they had to swap the kit at half time.
Crazy. Never seen that before.
That is, yeah. Before you were born. That's before you were born, Femi.
Is that the official reason, is it, that they couldn't see each
Yeah.
other? I thought it was like a superstition thing.
No, they couldn't pick each other out. Here we go. Right, this is the story. It's disgusting.
Oh, we've gone off on some mad tangents here, by the way.
Pep's fault. It's Pep's clothing fault.
The way he's been talking at the moment, he would genuinely take responsibility for this.
Ferguson immediately instructed his players, change into their blue and white strip. The manager just stormed in and said, get that kit off, you're getting changed. Those were the first words he said at half time. Much to the bemusement of the watching supporters at the Dell, United's grey shirts were nowhere to be seen as they trotted back out for the second half. Their performance did improve, but a late strike from Ryan Giggs came as a mere consolation
Yeah, they
as
didn't turn it round,
Southampton
did
eased to a 3-1 win.
they? Yeah.
Ferguson later described the £10,000 FA fine as the best 10 grand I ever spent. Lee Sharp and Ryan Giggs, they were the days. What would you give, Femi, to have those players back in the United side?
I never watched them play, so nothing.
To bring it back to present day, one of my friends the other day compared Jack Grealish to Lee Sharp.
Do you know Jack Grealish hasn't scored a goal
Exactly.
in a
45.
whole calendar year?
Yeah.
45,
45 games, James. Say that again.
45 games the last time Jack Grealish scored for the club.
1 assist in that period.
Yeah.
And he cost what?
100
100
million.
million.
How many starts and how many assists?
There would have been more starts in the first, but I mean, over the last 30 games, I bet the majority, if not all, have come from the bench.
Mate,
How many did he score for Villa, Joel? Was he prolific, or
Wasn't
was
a
it
big-
mainly?
He was never a big numbers guy. That was never what he was about for Villa. It was more relief of pressure, like the type of side that Villa were then. They would soak up pressure and Grealish would carry the ball up the field. The season that, obviously the final season that he was there, he added more goals and assists to his game, like scored some really spectacular goals for us in the Premier League as well. But I mean, he was never going to be that player at City. That wasn't the player they wanted him to be. But I think overall, the move, look, for him, he'll say he won everything. He was in that treble side, played a big part in that treble side. There's no way that he'll say anything other than that it worked out. But for his legacy in the game, I don't think he'll have one when he's done that.
Got 55 career goals in 350 appearances. So it's not like he's ever been super prolific.
Premier League season started with 2014 for Grealish, no goals. Then
yeah, so I mean, even that last year that he got his City move, 7 and 27. I mean, just on the eye test, he felt like he contributed to more goals than that.
Yeah. He was doing a lot of the work, like leading up to goals and stuff. Wouldn't necessarily get the assists, but anyway, I think he's pertinent to mention because I think they're a big reason why they are where they are is their transfer activity. Probably since that one has been terrible.
Yeah.
Like, look, if you look at some of the players they've brought in, that Nunez. Obviously he was all over the place at the weekend, so it feels like maybe a bit reactionary. But he's not a starter. He doesn't really play. They paid a pretty penny for him. I feel like Doku as well kind of flatters to deceive, doesn't he?
He really does. He pulled the wool over my eyes pre-Euros when I called him out as my pick for Player of the Euro.
You see the meme about how he only does really well against 30 plus fullbacks.
I have not seen that meme, but I'm going to go search for it.
If he has a game, you'll just see someone say, check the age of the fullback, and it's over 30.
So today, the United admin put up a tweet of what's his name, Materazzi's probably pronounced his name wrong. Materazzi's highlight saying 27-year-old fullback had his brilliant performance, and you just see him like locking up Doku. It's the funniest thing ever, man.
He looks like he's got a lot to do, doesn't he?
Yeah, they buy the Finnish articles. The problem is some of the Finnish articles they've bought are not up to Premier League standard, and I think the competitiveness of the Premier League at the moment is finding them out. Like losing at the weekend to a lower mid-table club this time last year. I'm just looking for reaction.
Literally no reaction to that.
Even listen to that.
Are you listening, Femi?
Zoned out, yeah.
I completely zoned out. Because I just realised City have sold Cole Palmer. They've sold Douglas Luiz.
Delap's gone to Ipswich.
Delap's gone to Ipswich. Like they're selling like quality players that could probably help the team at this stage.
Who are the best players, or arguably the best players in their new clubs?
Nah, that's just poor business, should I say? Not even poor talent ID. I think they've got a decent talent ID. They've got quite a few decent players, but
they've got the appeal. I think it's not the talent ID. They've got the appeal. So if you're a toss-up between going to City and knowing that you're odds-on going to win the Premier League and or another, versus going to someone else maybe in the Premier League or elsewhere in Europe, the appeal's definitely still with City. even at this point in the season, for who they'll need to bring in January. They've got to do something in January, right? Yeah.
Doesn't strike me as something that they would do though.
No, then there's not a short fix. I think they
Desperate time, no?
they've got a problem as like an aging squad
as well.
Yeah, people have highlighted it, but it's like the same downfall that Liverpool had a few years ago when they fell out. They might have fallen outside the Champions League. You have those Hendersons, Fabinhos, people that have been around a long time, and they just don't have the legs to do what they were doing before. I think the Gundogan transfer is the one that makes the least amount of sense to me. Like, he left in good form.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Barcelona couldn't really do anything similar to what he was doing before, and they're like, oh yeah, he's a good player. We'll bring him back. We know who he is. And you see him running around in central midfield, and these young, strong squads are just making him look a bit silly.
Yeah, proper weird, that one. And that's what I think. I just think that's something weird. Play like Kovacic, getting Kovacic from Chelsea, like that was odd.
Yeah, they agree. They got years out of it.
Yeah, I say that was a decent signing at the time because he did come in, played a couple good games, and actually dominated the game. So I wouldn't put that.
But there was no longevity to him.
Yeah. To be fair, I think he was brought in to almost support rather than be a starter.
And I think that's part of their problem. Like, they haven't been signing players to make their team better. They've been signing players to supplement the players that they have, and they've never moved past that. So now the players that they have are getting towards the twilight of their careers, maybe not as good as they were, and these guys are still just the supporting cast. Like, they haven't actually pushed on the way that
was that the Grealish purchase? Was that a squad depth thing rather than he's going to come in and be a first 11?
Yeah. I think he was signed for them to almost win the Champions League.
Yeah. But I think he was signed for a few reasons. Like, there was a big marketing thing with him as well, I think. Yeah.
The weird thing with City is their succession planning is really poor. Like, a lot of other clubs will bring in good prospects, give them minutes, bed them in, and eventually they'll become a starter. Whereas City have done it like the opposite way. They had the players in the academy, like we talk about Cole Palmer being KDB's succession, and didn't handle it very well and ended up losing these players. They had Alvarez, who could have become a great forward option, didn't handle his minutes very well. He ends up going somewhere else.
It could have happened with Foden as well.
Exactly. Yeah, I think if Foden wasn't such like a believer and trusting in Pep, it would have happened.
What is going to happen with Foden
all the season? Like, that's just poor. He had a good game yesterday, to be fair. A couple good bits. He was one of the bright sparks of the game for City. But then again, like, going back to the point about City not being good at replacing players, it is kind of hard. Like, from a player's perspective, like, why would I go to City if I know I'm not going to get in? Or get play time, on a consistent basis. I think that's the bit they're probably struggling with. And from City's perspective, it's like you're trying to get new players in, but it's hard when you've won so much, in the space of 6-7 years. Like, there's almost that feeling of where's the motivation to get players who would actually replace the ones we've got in the squad. It's hard, I'd say, and it's tough. So I think they just go through, a down season. This wouldn't continue, for next season, I don't think. I mean, it wouldn't. They have enough smart people within the club to make the necessary changes, but at this stage, probably just for a season. But it'll be interesting to see if the owners, let the season slide on that note.
Would you say that City's stature in the game is what affects their ability to attract a player, like we mentioned, who is happy to bed minutes, like bed some time, get minutes slowly? Because players of any age...
you mean that you're going to go there and be a bit part player?
Yeah, but that worked. Like, Real Madrid sign players and they don't become first teamers for a while. Barcelona have done it historically. United used to do it quite a lot. These big, massive clubs can do that. City are a big club and they win a lot, but the stature isn't the same as going to...
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point. I don't actually think City are at the level of Real Madrid, Barca and Man United when they were at the peak of their statures. So I don't think they actually do have that appeal yet for people to be willing to come in and rotate to get a medal at the end of the year.
Yeah, because those teams we've mentioned, these players grew up watching them win. It's like a dream of going to play for one of these teams. And as much as a player might say when they sign, this is a dream come true, is it really a dream for these top players to play for City? Like, the next generation in 10 years' time might be different because they've grown up watching City win, but the current crop are always going to... Like, you saw the comment from McAllister at Liverpool last week. He said he'd always love to play in Spain for one of these two teams. Like, this is what high-end footballers want to do.
Yeah, I'm willing to go there and not play.
Yeah. I've been a free agent now.
I would have knew Scott Carson any day.
And do Nish. Sign me up.
Would you? Would you go and carry the bibs?
Maybe for 250.
It would be. It would be 250 a week.
Grand. Yes.
Yeah, no.
Speaking of overpaid players, should we flip this to the other side of Manchester and talk about Rashford?
Here we go.
Hey, right, power move. Power move straight away
Listen,
from Ruben. He knows what he's doing, doesn't he?
it couldn't have gone any better. Just start of the start of the day. There was loads of speculation about Rashford not playing, not being in the team. I think even the day before there was a leak. Apparently, starting to see quite a lot of that happening recently. But to drop two of your most prolific forwards, in the Premier League this season, literally off of their behaviors off the pitch, like to me that strikes me as a manager who knows what he's doing. He's ruthless. He understands the game. He understands that football isn't just what's to do with on the pitch, but also off the pitch. How you relate with your players, how you eat, like he said, how you dress. Almost, it's a manager who understands the game, and to make that decision and come away with victory away at your biggest rivals. I mean, obviously, other than Liverpool, to me, that's the ultimate boss move.
I thought it was actually low risk because it was win-win the game. Because if Man United lost away to Man City, that's not a surprise. So it was worth doing against City. Had you had done it against Palace, had you have done it against Everton, and lost that game, then that would have been a risk that maybe didn't pay off, and people would have been calling for Rashford to be back in the side.
Sorry, go ahead,
Hey, say James.
I wouldn't call it low risk because the City derby game to United fans and City fans is the biggest game of the season. If they did that and they walked to the Etihad and got absolutely gazumped, they would be fuming.
Yep.
It's taken a set of, but I think it also talks about the way he plays. Like he's so bit about the physical side, being back in possession, being back in shape, which is quite a lazy thing to say. But Rashford and Garnacho are two of the worst players he has for that. They're not the ones that are going to run the highest Ks. They don't put in the dirty tackles. They don't always put in the hard yards. So I think it made sense why he did it. And I agree with Femi. It's my way or the highway. Like if he'd done this 30 games in when he was struggling, everyone's like, oh, he's panicking. Yeah. This is a last minute, but he's done it early, and he's definitely setting the tone. He's talked about culture not being quite right, and this is probably his first way of trying to get that balanced out.
The thing I love most about it as well, going back to James's point, most of our previous managers for United, they go to City away and it's literally just defend, counter attack, and Rashford and Garnacho, they're two of the best players for that sort of for that style of play. You actually sit back, make sure City, and just try to punish them on the counter attack. And I think to make that sort of move and to prioritize literally just possession football, where you have intelligent players, passing the ball around. Honestly, this is the smoothest I've seen us play. We were effective in transition. City had the least amount of touches they've had in opposition's box, all season at 18. Which says a lot. We defended the ball.
18 touches in the box is still really high. And scrap the last 5 minutes. But look, for 85 minutes of the game, United were losing, and we're going to lose the game.
They were losing.
But we had more expected goals. We had higher shots on target. The stats were in our favour. I saw the interview with Bernardo Silva.
What do you mean we? Because you were holding Man City bibs in training 5 minutes ago.
I saw the interview with Bernardo Silva saying there was only one team in it, and he needs to get his head checked clearly because he was absolutely watching the wrong game. Now we dominated possession, against a team like City. We passed the ball a lot more freely. We had the chances to score. Bruno missed, an absolute sitter, a 1v1 with the goalkeeper. So we had most of the chances to score. Expected goal ratio, I'm pretty sure ours was 1.11 and City's was 0.9. There was levels to this.
Let's round that to a 1-1 then. So as a neutral, James, let's have a different take.
As a neutral, I'd say the game was one of the worst Manchester derbies I've watched in my lifetime. I thought the quality was really poor. I mean, for 85 minutes anyway, I think United, they were passing the ball around. I wouldn't say you were ever in control, but City weren't in control either. It's one of these games that was just, you weren't really laying a glove on each other. And of the 22 players on the pitch, only one stood out as having a decent game, and that was Diallo, who was the difference between the two teams. So yeah, it was a pretty forgettable game, but as a result, it could catapult United in the place they want to go.
Yeah, I see what you were saying about Ahmad now. Yeah.
Expect more than a yeah. You see what I was saying about Ahmad? Then what? I
That's
need
cool.
you to go.
Yeah, but you rocketed up to 12th position in the league
here we go.
for 15 minutes.
You're
and then
talking about player, and now you're making you mention about league position about the team.
Yeah, because he has been playing for the team this season.
Yeah, but he's been
so
playing. He's been
well
our-
done for
our
5
one-
minutes.
He's
5
been our
minutes.
one-
But I wouldn't let this result paper over the fact that I'd say only 3 or 4 of your players are good enough for like a top 4 team. Like you still
Yeah.
need a lot of new footballers.
And City have lost 8 of their last 11 as well. Like they are there to be
One
beat
win
at the moment.
in 11 games.
That was the time. Yeah, that was the time when you wanted to be playing against them. So yeah, one of the players that you've obviously been really big on, Femi, that you've backtracked on over the last week is Anana. What's caused the backtrack? Yeah.
But listen, he still put up a decent save yesterday. Honestly, with Anana,
Was the one on Thursday a step too far? Was it? Was that?
Is that the Forest one?
Nah, that was the Forest one was last weekend, and there was one in wherever they were. They were in Czechia, weren't they? And he just passed it nonchalantly to the edge of the box.
Is it Victoria Plitzen or something?
Yeah, Blitzen.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like, I think there's just certain players, they just have that bozo gene where there's always a mistake in them, you know. Apparently, he's one of those players, so that's not, especially for the goalkeeper position, that's not the sort of player you want in the team to lead the lines for a position so important. Similar to Ramsdale, I mean, he had a conversation he had with Ian Wright the other day, a couple of seasons ago, and I think this is when Arteta decided, you know what, I gotta ship him, mate, when he was talking about how, you know, he can't stay concentrated for a whole 90 minutes. And for a goalkeeper to say that so boldly, almost like it's it's something to be proud of. It's like, no, mate. Like, that's the one position that you literally have to be on guard, the whole 90 minutes, even when you haven't touched the ball, even when the ball hasn't come to your box. So yeah, players who just have a mistake in them, especially in that position, they will never win the league.
The bozo gene. There we go. I mean,
like
what
that.
a transformation from the best keeper in the Premier League 2 weeks ago to the bozo gene.
No, he does though. He does. I mean, you could even argue Alisson slightly recently has had that gene, at times.
Injured for 4 weeks, but apart from
I say recently, like when he's played.
Don't come after James's Liverpool.
No, I agree. I actually agree with him. Alisson does have a little bit of a howler in him every now and then.
Yeah.
He does, yeah. Femi has been wheeling out the mistake videos, the mistake video highlight reels on YouTube for.
But he's the best
Alisson.
goalkeeper in the world, so he can do what he wants.
I still argue that's Martinez.
Not according to the awards, he's not. Two-time.
Boy, that save.
I mean, it's a shame because it didn't mean anything for us,
true.
but literally,
wow. Oh, what a save.
All bias aside, and I can't say that I'm not, but I'm trying to put it aside, that's the best save I've ever seen.
Yeah, and maybe I'm a bit biased because he came from Arsenal too, but he is, like, as a shot stopper, his reactions and instincts, because he moves before the ball moves.
Yeah.
I've not seen a save like that. I think that's the thing. I think you see like lots of similar types of saves all the time. Like you do this one does kind of like draw on that Banks save because it was so like, oh my God, what has he just done there? Like, how has he actually done that with the ball? And I think that's the thing about it. It's like when it initially comes across, you think it's in, and obviously it's a corner, so it's a bit of a melee anyway. And I was a bit like, oh, it's in, and it's like, oh, this must be a good save.
Yeah.
But those types of ones, sometimes they just hit them. You know what I mean? They just get themselves into the right place. The training kicks in, and you're just in the right place in the goal, and it just hits you. But that's past him.
Yeah, it's not just past him, but it's low, which I
think
is
the
best.
Low under his feet.
Yeah, the Banks one's great because it's past him, but it's at his level. To go low and scoot behind you, I just think
behind you as a goal. Yeah, you might be
just
right.
saying you lost. If you'd have won that game, that save would never stop you being talked about.
Oh yeah, it'd be huge. I mean, if that save had been obviously like context is everything. It's unfortunately it is like just a normal Premier League game between Villa and Forest. Like that's all it is really. If that's in a World Cup, if that's in a Euros or anything like that, it's being remembered forever. And whether it will or whether it won't, I don't know. But I know for myself that is the best save I've ever seen.
Someone asks you the question in the next 30 years, you're always going to give the same answer now, yeah.
My one before that was Jed Steer in the playoff semi-final against West Brom in the first leg at home, if you want to look it up. It was a good save.
So your top two were both Villas, but you're not biased.
Well, that he's seen, I guess, Were you at that game?
Like he said, he's not biased, innit? There you go.
We don't have bias on the pod.
From a neutral.
I didn't. Yeah, until Liverpool started going on a hot vein of form, I had no idea that James, as a Chesterfield fan, was such a big Liverpool fan.
No, I'm Chesterfield first without a doubt.
Field home and away.
Another big win at the weekend if anyone was watching.
Yeah,
Up to 6th in the playoffs. Going up
careful, don't win that playoff, as we now know.
That's a good point. We'll never sack Paul Cook. They'll put a statue up of that man. And Will Grigg next to him.
It could probably double up as a Dyche statue, actually, if they did
that. Is there a Dyche statue, James?
I think Paul Cook would be the first to have a statue.
You could do Paul Cook on one side and Dyche on the other. Get two for one.
Yeah, no, we've had Paul Cook over 2 different spells now. 1, 2 titles, 2 trips to Wembley. It's not bad.
It's not bad at all.
Glowing or anything. Me and my 5 of the Chesterfield fans.
Did we catch any other sport over the weekend?
The cricket turned around a little bit as well, didn't it?
Well, this game is technically a dead rubber because England won the series 2-0 and romped to a win. So with not a lot riding on this game, England seem to be playing like there's not a lot riding on this game. They don't seem in it and look ready to come home for Christmas, to be honest. Whereas New Zealand are scrapping for a bit of dignity and have put England to the sword. I think their lead at the minute is like 650 or something, and England are 2 wickets down in their chase. Good thing is, that means that Bethel and Root are batting, so that'll be good to watch at 10.
Yeah, I think the series win, I don't think it should just be glossed over as a good series win. I still think there's cracks in the team that needs to be addressed. Crawley's in a rank sort of reign of form and needs to have a look at that. Stokes.
But they're still saying he's dead set for playing in Australia, no?
He is dead set, but he still needs to have a look at... They're not going to drop him, but they need to put some focus on the fact he's not scoring any runs. And then you've got Stokes, who's made of glass. Like, if he wants to go to Australia next year, something needs to be done about Ben Stokes.
They're saying they need to manage his bowling, haven't they?
They have to do something, but he's not good enough at the moment to be batting only, so they've got a decision to make. And the other one is, and me and Matt spoke about this the other day, Bashir he's picked up a lot of wickets, but he's still going around the houses every time he bowls. Like, people are just targeting him. And if we go to Australia, they're going to knock him around the park. So yeah, there's still problems that they need to address between now and then.
When is it? When is the Ashes?
Next Christmas.
This time next November.
We've got India in between those two as well.
Apparently, New Zealand's record at this venue, Stedden Park, is ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, specifically Kane Williamson's, who's got an average of something like 90 there.
Yep, so no surprise to see him put 150 on, but good.
Which
good.
You don't mind them seeing after watching them fail for the last couple of tests. You don't mind them getting one back in the series. Had this been the first or the second game in the series, it would have been a very different conversation. And the problem is that winning the series does paper over the cracks a little bit. But with Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes, I think they're the sort of guys that won't let a crack go unresolved. Hopefully, just the problem is that Ben Stokes is a massive crack.
Yeah, there's been some positives though over the last year. Like, we've sort of found 2 senior bowlers out of nowhere now, which is good. Cars for those conditions, and obviously Atkinson is playing everywhere. Not overly convinced by Potts, but he bowled all right in the first innings, so he'll probably get another look. And then Wokes has proved he can do it away, which is good. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's all bad. I just don't want the narrative to be England's back, we beat New Zealand in New Zealand, and then we'll go to the Indian test at home, and if we play like that, we'll be in trouble.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to lose this test match by about 400 runs. So I think coming back with our tail between our legs a little bit is not a terrible thing. But also, yeah, to have Harry Brook and Joe Root playing the way they've been playing, Pope got a few runs, but not enough. He's got some form. Yeah, he has kept well. You've not noticed him, which they say is brilliant for a wicket keeper. You don't want to notice a wicket keeper in a match. As James said, the bowlers, and then yeah. The spinning option, we're not holding down an end when we've got a spinner. The reason why we're taking wickets is because we're offering up opportunities to go for runs. So that's cricket done. NBA, you said, Femi?
Yes.
Just let me start with the NBA Cup.
I wanted to start there as well, so I'm glad that you did.
Yeah, so the NBA Cup. Femi might be a little biased on this because he supports the Lakers, and they won the inaugural NBA Cup this time last year. So they launched it because the season, as we know, is really long and they play a lot of games. So the first 30 games don't really mean a lot until we get to the business end of the season after Christmas towards Easter. So they introduced the NBA Cup as an in-season tournament, and I don't know that it's got a lot of hype, but it's nice that there is some meaning to it. But that's about all I can take from it.
Did they not think that they had enough games? Was that what they thought?
Just not enough games that meant anything at this point in the year.
I think it's largely due to ratings being down for the NBA as a whole, and that's still continued into this year, which is sad. I think you having what is it, 83 games in the season? That's a lot, man. There's so many meaningful
It's a
games
lot.
in that, and also coupled up with the fact that you've also got multiple broadcast channels for loads of different games, and like the smaller teams find it difficult to even watch their own teams play. So like ratings will always be down when fans can't find a consistent platform to literally watch their team play. And I think, and that's been a major issue for the NBA so far. And last year we saw ratings go up slightly during the NBA Cup, but that's because you've got a big organization like the Lakers. Will have so much brand loyalty, who have so much of a big reputation. They're almost like the United, of basketball. I'm sorry to throw United in there, but it's the fact.
We hadn't mentioned them for 29 seconds.
They probably are. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably as close. Yeah. Yeah.
They've got reputation, especially you've got LeBron James as well. So I think, but that it hasn't helped too tough this year. I think the ratings have been down overall.
28% down this year alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I scrolled on to watch one game that was live on one of my social medias, and the courts look horrendous to look at the
For
moment.
the NBA Cup,
Yeah, what is going on?
that's part of the marketing
The
for it,
Rockets
is
crazy.
to visually get some sort of contrast between the regular season and the NBA Cup. They're doing team colours on the floors with the NBA Cup in the paint, and I find it very, very difficult to watch. Especially being a Celtics fan, watching that garish green for an hour and a half.
It just looks like it's been overtaken as a marketing tool rather than a pure sport. Like, I always come back to tennis with this. Like Wimbledon, tennis at Wimbledon is the most purest form of sport because marketing hasn't invaded the on-court experience. Whereas the NBA has gone the complete other way and overly invaded the sporting experience to a point where it doesn't really feel like you're watching basketball.
But I mean, if you do switch it to the other side with the NFL, it's similar. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not just throwing, I guess, marketing, but it's throwing it the right way. NFL, they throw, I mean, mate, got like 100 ads for one game. So it's like, well, you still get viewers watching the game. You still get record numbers, every year. The Super Bowl was always, it's like they're breaking new records. So it's like, it's one thing to throw ads in there, but I think the quality of the product in itself, it's just not great. When LeBron James and Steph Curry retire, like, I can't name, other than Anthony Edwards, but still he's in a smaller market like the Timberwolves. I can't name. There's no name that jumps out for me.
I think one of the challenges that you've got is you don't have the big American names, like the all-American players like you used to have. Yeah. Now you have more. We've spoken about it before, Femi. The overseas players that are dominating.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment, you've got Giannis, who is now one of the best players in the league, and then you've got Wembanyama as well. And these are the big players. Doncic, I think he got 40. Did he get 40? It's a triple-double he scored last night. Triple-double that he scored last night. And if that was LeBron, the amount of press and noise about a triple-double like that, we'd have heard about it for weeks, whereas it happening for Doncic last night, and the noise has almost fizzled out already.
Also cover the fact that the Mavs, it's not a particularly big market. Do you know what I mean? So, like, if you got to play on the Lakers, scoring 40 points, or you've got a team like Celtics, they're attractive, but they haven't got a star name. Jason Tatum's not a big name.
There's no personalities in basketball.
Yeah,
there
no
was 15 years ago. Like,
and the two players with personalities who are American, Anthony Edwards.
LaMelo Ball.
I mean, see, that's a good shout. I mean, you've got Ja Morant, who would always give you a highlight reel. He's always getting suspended for whatever stupid reason, for flashing a gun or just doing, all sorts of things. So it's like, you have
Trae Young.
Got that. Trae Young. Ice Trae. You know what I mean? So saw the comments.
Ice Trae. Ice Trae is such a poor nickname. The Ice Trae.
No,
absolutely horrific.
Genius, actually.
Yeah, Ice Trae is a genius nickname.
Cole Palmer's working so hard to trademark his
Yeah, I saw that. Do you know what? Embarrassing from him because he actually took that celebration from his best mate,
Yeah,
Morgan Rogers, and he's
or
trying to.
Rogers.
It really be your friend, you know.
Yeah,
It really be the people close to you. Like honestly, man's trying to trademark that. Get
just
out of here.
back to basketball. I'm really surprised they haven't got like a Netflix style documentary. I know they've done like individual team things, but surprised they don't have a behind the scenes thing. Like I think that's what sort of reinvigorated like Formula One as a sport because it brought personalities back. I think they need something.
They've got the five for NBA. They've got like what's it called? Like so they pick like 5 players.
I mean, the fact that you're struggling to recall the naming of it, like, it's not marketable.
Actually,
Do any of the big leagues have that? Do the NHL or NFL have that type of thing?
NFL have done Netflix series from like a team perspective, like the All or Nothing. But
yeah.
I don't think they've done. I think it's only tennis, golf, Formula One, and then there's a horse racing one coming out this year. But yeah, I feel like more sports will head that way.
I guess it's hard with the basketball to
Yeah,
know
starting 5. That's what's.
where to cover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Like, what's the story? You know, that's
Yeah.
part of the planning, isn't it? I feel like with
Yeah.
Formula One, it's probably just about small enough, and they're all largely in the same place most of the time, where you can maybe be flexible with it, and you can go and film something else if that's more of a story. But if that's in the US and I don't know, Boston are more of a story than LA, that is you've got to travel around with them.
Yeah, I think
It would be great.
you're
I
right.
think it'd be really good, but logistically, I can just see that being really hard.
Like the travelling circus of the F1 is easy because at least you know where they're going and everyone's going to the same place. Whereas with the 30 teams in the NBA, they're going to 15 different cities every other day. Yeah, like stories that you can follow. At the moment, Boston really getting a lot of hate, the most hated team in the league, and like the percentages on that is like 54% of the public pick out Boston as the most hated team.
Why?
That regularly happens when a team wins a championship. They also think their main core players are inauthentic. And then also Boston fans are known for being a little volatile.
You are a bit like that.
That's being polite. Yeah, which is why I fit really well as a fan of New England, and it's similar for the Boston Bruins as well for ice hockey. Vociferous, yeah. To put it mildly.
Yeah, I feel like when Boston, the Celtics have that reputation, a bit of a reputation anyway, don't they? Like when like Garnett and Pierce and Allen were there, they were
Great shout.
They were like I don't know, not dirty, but
The Leeds United of basketball.
like you'd have to go through the ringer to beat them. Do you know what I mean? Like they were like a tough team. That's what they were about, really, more than flair.
Yeah, defensively, Celtics are hard to beat, and their playing style as well. Their playing style is we'll score more threes than you because they've got a higher percentage of 3-point shooting average than any other team. So you have to get three buckets for every 2 of theirs. So you have to go into the paint and get 3 2-pointers for the 2 shots that Boston Celtics are getting for their 3-pointers. And they've got players right down their bench, 6 to 8, that can do that as well. Peyton Pritchard, has got the highest percentage of 3-pointers. 3 points over 2 points, and he's coming in as 6th and 7th man onto the court. So that's why some of the reasons why. But that makes a good documentary. People want to watch that. They're not underdogs, that's for sure. They may be. Come the end of the season, they may be. Oklahoma City Thunder, Cleveland Cavaliers, Celtics are not going to have it all their own way this year, but there are not many more teams than those 3 that we can really put in the mix.
Trying to make it competitive when you have a super team. Talking about Celtics aren't going to have it all, mate. They're the better team and it's not even close.
They'll be the better team over 7, I expect, but, we'll see. Hope not. Which seems like a really great place to end it. Thanks very much, Femi, for that sign-off for the Celtics. If you've enjoyed listening along, you can like and subscribe on Spotify and YouTube. Get in touch at allsportspods@gmail.com, and we will catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, fellas.
Yes.
Cheers.